Hello all, hope you're doing well today. Firstly, sorry for not uploading for a while. I was out on my travels. First of all, catching up with a few friends in the southwest, going on a bit of a spiritual adventure down there, and spending a bit of time with my wife and son as well. All very good for the soul and allows me to rejuvenate my own self and come back with a new vigour. On that note, there's a couple of questions I'm still yet to answer from some of the subscribers on the Substack. But these are always very good to answer in video form because I think many of us can identify with these issues. We have a question here from a subscriber speaking about how to get his, quote, wife on board with, quote, this way of thinking. I would assume that means a more traditional way of thinking. He states she has a lot of liberal feminist ideas, kind of by default, tends to be the way these days. But in a lot of ways, she's pretty conservative. I think she'd love to be a stay-at-home mum if she could afford it, but she was brought up by a single mum, so she's afraid of not having her own source of income. She's not really religious, and she's only been exposed to the more shadow side of Christianity. Well, good question. And I think when we speak about modern women and traditional ways of living or Christianity, in any sense, we have to be aware that, we are battling against modernity. And like I always say, you're never going to get it completely right. We have to work with what we have. So the first thing is, I would say, don't listen to any of those, hyper trad accounts online. When I say trad, I don't mean the traditionalism I'm interested in. I mean the more mainline Christian traditionalism. They paint these wonderful pictures of, the perfect housewife, and it's all angelic and idyllic. And it's just not like that. Marriage is hard for both people and takes a lot of discipline for both. But I think the idea of everything going back to the 1950s just is a bit of a wild goose chase. We just don't live in the environment for that to happen. And many of us perhaps wouldn't want it to either. What we have to move to, as I believe, is sort of a new understanding, an evolved understanding, as I always say, something that's life-giving rather than life-taking. And many women will feel immediately that anything traditional is going to be life-taking. As you pointed towards, that's probably by default because of the education system. But in a sense, we have to give the devil his due here. And many women are worried about conservative or traditional ways of living because they think they're going to lose something. Now, in reality, when it's properly practiced, you're not losing anything, you're gaining, really. But we also have to understand, if we're to understand this through the spiritual, traditional understanding, it's the man that leads. I always say, the male leadership is like the male leading a dance. He's not dragging her around, telling her where to go. Again, you get that in the mainstream, and it never works. Women just rebel and go to feminism. And in a sense, you can't really blame them. What it's more about is knowing the rhythm, flowing with the energy, and the woman will, if you like, latch on to the male leadership, but he's following the spiritual rhythm, if you like. Now, we take that dance metaphor and apply it to your life, and a lot of the things you're talking to here are, the challenges your wife has had with regards to being raised by a single mother. That obviously implies an insecurity when it comes to finances. On top of that, no real religious backing, not really, open to conservative ideas because of the education and so on. But that doesn't really matter. Again, you can see online a lot of the, quote, right-wing based women. All right, they say, lots of right on things that get tens of thousands of likes and so on. But would you want to be married to one of those women? And I know, as people always say here, yeah, but Candace Owens and what's her name? Tommy Lauren, is that one of them? They're really hot. Look how hot they are. Of course they want to be married. Yeah, well, hotness fades in a marriage, and it has to be replaced by something a bit deeper. And what you're going to find with those women is they tend to be quite opinionated and almost masculine in their energy. It's not something I'm particularly drawn to. And I think I've experienced this in my own marriage. One of the reasons I really value my wife is her femininity. She's very good with my son, by her nature. Similarly, I think it allows the masculine and feminine energy to continue to grow in new ways and develop. Now, again, do we get that perfect? No, but we're pointing in the right direction. That's the main thing. And why I'm saying all of this is the externals aren't so important. What is important for human beings is what really heals them and makes them feel, especially women, a sense of security. Now, in the male path of initiation, we almost have to go through the great challenges of life, the darkness, and overcome, and that gives you the grounding you need to know how to deal with life. It almost gives you the light that allows you to see. This is why I often say in these videos, we have to welcome the darkness, the hardship. And it doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It might take you a lifetime to figure out some of this stuff. It might take you, a year. We're all different. But the point is we have to almost face the darkness. And that's how we learn the wisdom that you just can't read in a book. That's absolutely vital for men to go on that path again. It's all been forgotten in this era. But I guess you could say the silver lining is men are discovering problems absolutely everywhere. And those problems are vicious. All the mental health issues men have, addictions and limitless things men are struggling with. But when we face those things, we can actually see if we go into the heart of them, we can really learn. Now that will lead us to becoming the more grounded, integrated male, which is the mission we should all be on. And the point is that as we start to do that, that energy will reflect to the feminine. Now, again, it won't work with every single woman. Many of them have just been completely turned against men. Many of them need to go and do the big girl boss thing. You just have to let those types of women go. There's no point trying to stop them. In fact, it'll make them do it even more if you try. But if they are a bit more neutral and they're just a normal woman in the modern era getting on with life, they're probably a bit liberal by temperament now. And they've got their own hang-ups, like you say. Every woman's going to have that. Like every man has got his challenges, She said this single parent thing. You're going to have to see, where a lot of these energies are coming from. It's good you've located one. But it obviously tells us, well, where do we really need to lead as men? And again, when I say lead, it's not dragging her around and telling her what to do. Leadership is really spiritual. So it's the energy that you're manifesting, or really that's manifesting through you, but more correctly. Now, I guess a modernist way of saying that would be something like the calmness of your nervous system when dealing with some of the challenges around us. I know when I met my wife, one of the things that deeply appealed to her, to her, was I had this very strong spiritual grounding. And she was very interested in these fields, some of them quite new age. But I was very useful for her in helping her navigate some of these waters, because it can be a very toxic world that, and I'd been through it. So I could almost make sense of some of these things for her and give her a deep sense of security, as well as explaining the modern world for her, not sitting her down and being like, bah, 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 bah. But, being calm, relaxed, enjoying the day out, enjoying a walk, a meal, whatever it is you're doing, have fun, hang out, as the saying goes, and hook up is the extra bit. But I stopped doing all of that as I became more traditional. But the point is, it's just enjoying your life. And what it is, a woman will see that energy in a man and think, I feel comfortable, I feel safe. And she can't help that. It doesn't matter how, well, I suppose if you've been really hammered by feminism, it might matter. And if you're deeply traumatized, it will probably matter as well, because you won't be able to let the light in. And that's unfortunately only a woman can do what she's got to do to get to that place. It's likely she won't in the modern age, because she'll just be told by mainstream society she's a girl boss anyway. But the point is, a lot of women aren't in that place. They are capable of opening up to that true masculine energy. So it's really the formation of it within ourselves. And again, be wary of some of the trad stuff online. They're too exoteric. They try and do everything in practical material terms. It's a spiritual revolution that happens in you, and the woman will notice that it's happened in you, but don't talk about it. She will raise it. Why are you that bit more calm? Why are you, how have you got these kind of answers to these things? And then, just drop a little bit here and there, as I did in my early dating with my wife. Well, I've been on these journeys, had a lot of challenges, and just had to really work through a lot of stuff, through the heart, through the mind, through the spirit, and turn to God for a lot of it. And it's just given me a path, and just leave it there and move on. And the point I'm making here is the more that we hold to this over time, because women, they do look for consistency in men. And we shouldn't try and be consistent, by the way. We must just live it. Let go of performance totally. Let God rule. But the point is we've just completely handed it over. And what we'll start to see is that energy will start to lead to the female soul to inquire more into you. And that really is something we have to prepare for and work on ourselves for, because it's, in many senses, it's quite a big demand of us as men. And we should never get lost in the ego. And you get this a lot on the mainline trad stuff, online. They almost make it like, yeah, I'm the man, I'm the king. No, you're getting lost in it again. My experience has been, I have to hand over to the higher forces, and that will guide me. And I need to get out of my own way. Stop thinking I'm the big I am. And we can all fall into that. We have to be careful of it. And the light will naturally shine through. So you don't have to do anything. If you're really getting into your tradition as well, you have an added bonus, and you have the masters, the elders, they will guide you. There's an answer for everything in the tradition once you're deeply into it. So the point is, it's not even something that we necessarily have to do. It's about manifesting that energy within ourselves. And over time, especially in a marriage, over the months, over the years, you'll see that the woman will become more and more open to it. And it's your duty not to hammer it around and say, do this, do that. It's going to be imperfect at times. You'll get it right sometimes, get it wrong the others. But just allowing that process to happen. And I'm not just making it up. I've had this in my marriage, in the coaching work I used to do before this. I had many friends reach out to me who are married, and many of them are now in happy marriages, most of them Christian marriages. And I don't make myself out to be this Christian counsellor. I think if you do that, again, you're probably getting trapped a bit. But I realise from my own experience that there's a real energy, a real rhythm that you can find, and then that will start to manifest in your energy, and the woman is like magnetically attracted to that and will start to follow it through. And that's how I would go with it. And just allow it to happen with its own language, and language that works for you. So really my answer is, it's more about you than it is about her. You get that right energy. You're at one with the light of God in religious language or secular language. You could just say at peace with being, not lost in your ego in the drama of the day. And over time, she'll start to follow and trust, because that's what a woman really craves above all else. The Christian tradition is, it's God, Jesus, man, woman, child. I.e. the woman will look to the man, and what she wants to see is he's aligned. If he's not, she'll intuitively know, no, that guy's not for me. So I hope that helps. It's really worked for me, and I know this can work for many other people, but it's a process, it's a practice, and we should never expect it to work overnight. We're rewarded for consistency of the practice and the real transformations that have happened within us. If they're not happening yet, it's usually a sign there's more work to be done, some stones to uncover, somewhere to go further, maybe a tie to the world we haven't quite let go of. I hope that was a useful answer for you anyway. As always, friends, do feel free to reach out with your own questions. Always more than happy to answer them. Again, got a load of courses down below if you're interested. 30-day spiritual reset, introduction to traditionalism. You can join the Substack for exclusive content and to chat with me and so on. Other than that, do subscribe to this channel and keep up the good work, keep up the practice in your own life. And like I always say, consistency and working on the transformation does reveal the true light over time. I'll work actually in the new year on another group coaching session, so do keep an eye out for that. And enjoy the rest of your day, friends.